Hello and welcome to Let's Play Dear Esther. This will be a literal walkthrough, because all you do in this game is walk. Well, that sounds bad, but it's not a bad thing. Walking is all you do in this game. You can't interact with any objects, you can't pick up any objects, you can't shoot anything, there's no enemies. Even your body doesn't have a form, it's just all about looking around. It's a poetic, semi-randomized story. And it's based on a Half-Life 2 mod, which came out in 2008 by the same name, Dear Esther. It was picked up by one of the guys who worked on Mirror's Edge, the level designer, and he smoothed it out. And it's been released yesterday by the Chinese Room. It's available on Steam right now for $6.99. That's in UK pounds. It really pushes the source engine to the limit. It really looks really... It's quite unbelievable that it is done in the source engine, because it really looks very, very beautiful. It has randomly generated audio, visuals and events. It's a unique and relaxing experience. It can be played and enjoyed by anyone because it's no skill really required. It's just that you walk through the areas, and the slower and the more time you take and the more attention to detail you pay, the more rewarding it is, really. All in all, it's about 2 hours long. So some people would say that's quite short, but for the experience you get, it's kind of like a movie, I would say, in some ways, because it's like an interactive movie. But it's not so much interactive, but that's not bad. But if you take your time to go through it, then it does reward you with the dialogue and the atmosphere and the beauty of the place. It has got a few reviews on Eurogamer. They give it 8 out of 10. On PC Gamer they give it 84 out of 100, and on Rewired they give it 8 out of 10. So it seems to be getting some really solid reviews. Like 8 out of 10, 84 out of 100 is really good for an independent game. So it's definitely worth checking out for the experience, I would say. And the original mod was built by a Portsmouth University researcher, Dan Pinshelk or something. It's first person. You just look around in 4 directions, and there is a swim up button apparently. But the guy who made the mod originally was looking to tell stories in a different way, and I think he definitely achieved that. This is obviously better than the mod, much better, because it's totally... I mean, if you look at the mod, it looks quite rough, whereas this looks really polished, like it says on the Steam page. It has a really good score to it, as well as the voice acting is superb. The dialogue is just excellent, and the atmosphere is there, and the graphics are quite beautiful and really done really well. The level design done by one of the guys from Mirror's Edge, level designer. So people have been wondering, is this a game or is this just like game art? But without games this couldn't exist, so I would call it game art, which is something that's still debatable. But you have movie art, you have which was debated for years, and now we're moving into an era where we have possibly game art, which is this. I feel this is probably the pinnacle of game art, although are very close to it. Although a lot of games that are high scoring games could be argued that they're game art also, with the landscapes that look beautiful, like Skyrim or Oblivion. But this is like a 2-hour experience. It's not a game as such, but without games this couldn't exist. So, you know, technically it is a game. It's made with a game engine. It's interactive in the fact that you can move through the environment, you can look around at your own free time and pace. You'd think it would be boring, but it's really not. It's engaging and gripping. And one of the quotes that one of the reviewers said is to trip through a brilliantly conceived landscape that rewards attentive engagement with a moving story, which is a very good quote, and pretty much sums the game up. So there's no interaction here as such, but you look around, you get randomly generated audio, randomly generated clips of sort of poetry. There's no point in click or picking up objects or shooting, or even there's no jumping or running, so it's just moving in 4 directions. There's a swim up button. Apparently I haven't got to that point. I actually had a look at this yesterday and played through the first 2 levels. There's 4 levels in all, and it lasts about 2 hours, so let's start this up. And this will be, you can't really do a walkthrough in this as such because it's simple. Anybody could play this. It's no real puzzles or anything. It's just an experience. So it'll be a literal walkthrough because basically all you're doing is walking through the landscape. There's no running, so you can't speed up, so you have to actually walk. It's a walking pace. Just look around. It's kind of exploratory also, so it's like you're exploring the place. It's good for people that enjoy like exploring landscapes and Skyrim and stuff. A lot of people like that most in games, just exploring, so this is for those type of people.
Dear Esther, I sometimes feel as if I've given birth to this island. Somewhere between the longitude and latitude, a split opened up, and it beached remotely here. No matter how hard I correlate, it remains a singularity, an alpha point in my life that refuses all hypothesis. I return each time leaving fresh markers that I hope, in the full glare of my hopelessness, will have blossomed into fresh insight in the interim.
And it's also open to interpretation with that dialogue. It's really like stirs your imagination, you know. So it's like it'll be a unique experience for everyone who plays this, because they'll have their own interpretation on the dialogue, on what's actually going on here. Is this like his soul on an island where he died or something? There's no real horror aspects as far as I can tell. I actually tried swimming in this yesterday. You can go out and you just end up dying, but you don't seem to be able to die in this game. You just come back and he says what?
Come back.
Come back, yeah, he says come back. So you just end up back on the shore where you started from. But if you fall off a cliff or something up there, you come back on the cliff. So you can't really die in this game. As you can see, it's quite beautiful for the source engine, so it's quite amazing what they did. So big time props for that. And you can turn on your light in these interior parts. It's like a wee torch. I have to change the settings here, hang on. Right, so there's nothing actually that you can pick up or discover here really, apart from the unique dialogue and just looking around at the objects. So it's quite chilled out in that respect. You can just chill out and look around. You get these things on the wall. You can see the paint cans. They're obviously painted here. Don't know what it means. It looks like a, what do you call it, chemistry equation. HCCHOH. It's interesting. And that's the lighthouse up there. You can sort of zoom in. There's a zoom in button. Just click the mouse. Don't know if that's actually for anything. I don't think so. But I won't be speaking over the dialogue. If he speaks any dialogue, I'll just be quiet. What the hell? That was weird. Was that supposed to happen? I like collapsed on the floor there. You can't actually go into the lighthouse as far as I know. Well, we looked up at it, and you can see the stairway was collapsed or something. It's a beautiful view. It is like a Hebridean landscape, which he says actually in the dialogue. So it's rough and rugged, sort of like Ireland, Scotland, edge of England also. We do share a similar landscape, I suppose. There's small islands really in the scope of the whole world. So we'll take the low path first. I don't know if you can take both paths. Maybe there's a choice of paths you can actually take. I went this way the first time, so I'll go this way again. I'm actually intrigued what is up there. So you can see quite really nice water effect too. Really is a beautiful landscape. See the fishing nets? Are the crab catchers, are they? No crabs in them. As you can see, I don't have any form, no body form. Let's go up then. I don't know if you can go this way.
There was once talk of a wind farm out here, away from the rage and the intolerance of the masses. The sea, they said, is too rough for the turbines to stand. They clearly never came here to experience the becalming for themselves. Personally, I would have supported it. Turbines would be a fitting contemporary refuge for a hermit. The revolution and the permanence.
It's kind of like taking a country walk, which is really weird. A simulated country walk. But very poetic. It's like reading a book nearly. Use your imagination also, but obviously a lot of it's here in the game. Nice grass effect, really.
A wonderful sight. The moon cresting the junction between the cliff path and the stone circle. It cast a shadow of the ridge across the beach, all the world as if you had signed your name in untidy handwriting.
So apparently all that is just random dialogue. Obviously there's it's not 100% random, but for each section you get a randomized dialogue and score, I think. But it's set for that section, obviously, as far as I know.
When someone had died or was dying, or was so ill they gave up what little hope they could sacrifice, they cut parallel lines into the cliff, exposing the white chalk beneath. You could see them from the mainland or the fishing boat, and know to send aid or impose a cordon of protection, and wait a generation until whatever pestilence stalked the cliff paths died along with its hosts. My lines are just for this: keep any would-be rescuers at bay. The infection is not simply of the flesh.
You see a marking down there. There's a lot of these markings around. Fortunately, I had to wait until he was finished there so I could point this out. But if you jump off, as you'll see, yeah, you die in quotations, but you don't actually die, because look, you just come back here. It says come back, and you somehow magically end up back here, which would suggest that he is not alive. So this is like after death, maybe. It's my interpretation of it, so you can have a unique interpretation of what's going on here. Obviously, for each person it's going to be different. So it's interactive in that sense. You're taking away from it your unique interpretation of it. I love that grass. It's just really, really nice. Kind of reminds me of Oblivion, but more dried out looking, more rural and country road looking. I'm used to looking at stuff like this when I'm going on walks, rambling and stuff, you know. It's awesome. So we'll take this path, I think. There's a couple of choices of paths to take. I wanted to check that place out. Look at the water there. Nice little waterfall. With stones here.
They were God-fearing people, those shepherds. There was no love in the relationship. Donnelly tells me that they had one Bible that was passed around in strict rotation. It was stolen by a visiting monk in 1776, 2 years before the island was abandoned altogether. In the interim, I wonder, did they assign chapter and verse to the stones and grasses, marking the geography with a superimposed significance, that they could actually walk the Bible and inhabit its contradiction?